Chapter 12. While the terrified children clung to their seats, the other adults in the car jumped up. Some ran to peer through the windows, and a few got in the way of the conductor, who burst into the car to see if any of the passengers had been harmed. "We're fine," Francis told him, "but what about the others on the train? Did the men rob anyone?" "I'm afraid so," the conductor said. "Mr. Gladney's mad as a stuck pig. Mrs. Gladney's crying over losing her mother's pearl necklace." Even though Eddie's smile was wobbly, he said, "She'll soon get her necklace back. The money, too." "Son, it's not that easy," the conductor began, but Eddie turned to Francis. "Remember I told you the telegraph?" "We're miles from town," she says. "There's no telegraph out here." "But there are poles and wires next to the track," he said, "and next to the baggage car and a mail car there's a telegraph equipment. I found it there when I went off on my own looking for the whole train." The color came back in his face. His smile widened into a grin. "I'll go back there right now, tell the operator who the robbers are and what they're planning for Harwood. He can hook up this equipment to the telegraph line and wire ahead to the police." The conductor broke in. "Out here the law offices are the sheriff and his deputies." Eddie tossed his hand impatiently. "Whatever they're called, they'll be waiting for those Connolly brothers when they ride in." "Oh, Seth, what's going to happen to you?" Francis wondered. Seth had made the wrong choice, turning his anger into revenge. But for a little while he had been a friend. He had had the potential to do good. If only he had realized he could change his ways for the better. Mike had. Seth could too. Johnny's face came to mind. Francis's happiness grew. "Oh, Johnny, my dearest love," she thought with determination. "It's too late for me to help Seth, but it's not too late to save you." Francis let Eddie go with the conductor to get the telegraph equipment. Before he left, she patted his shoulder. "Glad you're here, Eddie." She attempted to calm the children, whose fear had blossomed into excitement as they discussed what had happened. Seth Connolly wasn't a preacher. She told him he pretended to be so the police wouldn't find him and arrested him. "What's going to happen to him, Miss Kelly?" Aggie asked. "They'll shoot him," Jess said matter-of-factly. Francis shuddered. "Oh, no, Jessie. If Mr. Connolly's caught, he'll be arrested along with his brothers. They'll be tried before a judge and jury, and if they're found guilty, they'll probably be locked up in jail where they can't rob anyone else." Francis tried not to think about Seth, but he was imprisoned again. His bitterness and hatred and desire for revenge were bound to grow. She would have helped him if she could have, but there was nothing she could do for him now. Sam asked, "What if the sheriff doesn't catch the Connolly brothers? Then what?" "I don't know," Francis said. She thought about Seth's words with dread. "I'll come and find you," he had told her. He could do that easily. He knew where she lived. A shiver ran up her backbone. The train gave a sudden jolt, throwing people into the seats. Francis grabbed the back of one seat, managing to keep her balance. "Sit down, children. We'll soon be in Harwood." During the calm of the remainder of the ride, Francis thought about the calm and friendly support of Andrew McNair and Catherine Banks as they helped the Kellys and other children over their fears. "I must be like them," she thought. "The children need me." A muffled whisper came from across the aisle. "At least I can try," she told herself. She hurried to pick up 4-year-old Philip and held him close, and as she hummed a lullaby, he stopped sniffling and relaxed against her. "What a dear little boy you are," Francis thought. "Someone will be lucky to get you." As the train began to slow its approach into Harwood, Francis stood and faced the children. Some looked at her with fear in their eyes. A few faces were pale and pinched with worry. George Balcock, who tried to hold tightly to Earl and Nellie, who clung to him in desperation. Adam Stowe, tears rolling down his unchecked down his unhappy face, grasped his brother Harry in a stronghold. Only Eddie, who had returned from helping the conductor. Sam and Marcus kept up a smiling, poking, shoving, teasing manner, but as Francis looked into their eyes, she could see 3 scared boys hiding behind their brave masks. Francis smiled. You're going to discover many fine people who want very much to meet you," she said. "Some of you will find new families among them." Jessie barely spoke above a whisper. "What happens if we don't?" "Then you'll still have me," Francis answered. "I'll be right here with you, and I won't leave until you all find homes in which you're happy." "You promise you'll stay with us?" Lucy Griggs asked. "I promise," Francis said. "Part of my job is to make sure you all have good homes." "How many stops are there?" Mary Beth asked. 3, Francis told her. "Then what?" Marcus asked. "At the society, they said if you brought a lad back because no one wanted him." "That's not true," Francis said. "I brought Stephen back to New York City because his aunt and uncle came to the United States and asked for him soon after his orphan train left for Kansas." "He had a family," Daisy said. "Wonder, a real family?" "I have a mother," Francis told Daisy. "I love her very much, and she loves me, but I also have a foster mother and father who took me in when I was 13 and raised me as though I were a child of their own. A family doesn't have to be a mother and father and a child to whom they've given birth." "Then what is a family?" Daisy asked. Francis thought for a moment before she answered. "A family is a circle of love," she said. "Love?" Lucy echoed. Francis smiled. "That's right. Love given, love returned." Lucy smiled and hugged her doll. "Did you hear that, baby? Love is a circle," she said. As the train came to a stop, Francis could see a swarm of people outside, most of them staring at the train as though they were trying to see through the windows. A tall, broad-shouldered man came toward the train, heading for their car. The conductor opened the door and ran down the steps with his stool, but the tall man stopped him. Bounding up the steps, he entered the car, swept off his wide-brimmed hat, and spoke to Francis. "Ma'am, I'm Sheriff Malloy. I take it you are Miss Frances Kelly, and you have a boy here in your care named Eddie Marsh?" Yes, Francis answered. As Eddie stood trembling, clutching the back of his seat ahead of him for support, Francis automatically stood protectively between him and the sheriff. Eddie hasn't done anything he shouldn't, Francis said. I can vouch for him. The sheriff smiled. I didn't mean to rile you. I should have said right off I came to thank Eddie for the information you gave the telegraph operator. That was smart of you, Eddie. We got our robbers, 3 of them, that is, before they hit the jewelry bank, and we got the Gladneys' money and jewelry back. Solemnly shook Eddie's hand. Hip, hip, hooray. For Eddie, Sam shouted. But only a few of the other children joined in. Most of them stared at the sheriff or at the people at the train platform who excitedly peered through the windows at them. Frances cheered for Eddie, but as soon as she had the chance, she asked the sheriff, which of the Connolly's brothers got away? The one who rode the train, the sheriff said. He quickly added, but don't worry, we've got the men out looking for him. We'll soon round him up. Poor Seth, Frances murmured to herself. She knew Seth was deeply troubled. Will he ever get the chance to redeem himself? Are you all right, ma'am? Sheriff Malloy asked. You look kind of pale. Hot here, even for July. Is the heat bothering you? Frances took a deep breath, willing Seth out of her mind. I'm all right, she said, but I would like to ask a favor of you. Would you escort us, please, as we march to the Methodist Church? I'll be happy to, ma'am, the sheriff said. Frances turned to the children. Pick up your luggage, boys and girls. We'll leave this train and walk 2 blocks to a place where we'll meet the people who've come to see you. Come on now. Remember, you're wonderful children. I'm very, very proud of you. The families who'll get you will be so lucky, so hold your heads high and smile. As Frances climbed down the steps of the car, she felt a strong pull at the side of her skirt. Caroline pressed so closely that Frances nearly stumbled. Reaching down to stroke Caroline's hair, Frances said, You're safe with me, love. Don't be afraid. Caroline raised her head and surveyed the platform. I looked and looked, but I don't see him, she whispered. Frances knew that Caroline meant her father. Take my hand, she said, and pulled Caroline to position at her side. We're going to meet the people who have come to find children to love. The sheriff easily cleared a path through the bystanders on the platform, but 2 women spoke loudly, and Frances could hear their remarks. Look at them little waifs. I heard some of them was left on the doorsteps. Never had a proper father. Some of them were picked up right off the streets of New York City. And passed off as being proper, as you and me, but we both know that living on the streets the way they did, they've got to be little criminals. Maybe not all of them. Look at that pretty little girl. Doesn't she look sweet and pretty? And look at that little boy, too, cute as a bug. But that big girl now, you can't say she'd take a beauty prize. The gentleman in a high collar asked the man next to him, which one of those children was a boy who saved the bank? It's got to be the one who's smiling and waving at us. He's not shy as taking his bows. He heard you ask about him, I reckon. Did the bank manager give the boy a reward? Reward? Why should the boy get a reward? He's only a child. There's a great deal Frances would have liked to say to those busybodies, but she held her tongue and marched briskly past them down a dusty street to the Methodist Church. She led the children past the 70 or 80 people who had crowded the room on the raised platform in which 3 rows of stools had been arranged. A stout, middle-aged woman stepped up to Frances and pointed to the 3 people seated in chairs at the side of the room. I'm Mrs. Judson. That's my committee, she said. We know most of the people around these parts, which is why the society asked us to serve. If you have any questions about anyone who wants a child, you can just ask us. Thank you, Frances said. She seated the smaller children in front, the larger in back. When the children were ready, the sheriff raised his voice so that they boomed against the back wall. Quiet down, he bellowed. Listen to what Miss Kelly has to say. Frances looked at the many faces, and for a moment she was 13 again, studying the crowd, looking for expressions of kindness and laugh lines and smiles, hoping she and her brothers and sisters would find happy homes. Her heart beat faster, and she had to will herself to calm down. She cleared her throat and began, as she was told to do, by explaining a little about the Children's Aid Society and what it hoped to accomplish with the placing out program. She went again over the rules and about treating each child like one of the family, making sure he or she was schooled and taken to church through the age of 14, just in case the onlookers hadn't paid attention to the advertisements that had been sent out. And she introduced each child in turn, giving only names and ages. Finally, she invited the people to visit the stage and become acquainted with the children. I hope there'll be many of you who will come to me and arrange to take a child, she said. A buzz like that from the busy beehive filled the room as husbands and wives looked at each other. The children discussed them with each other. A young woman, her eye askew, ran to the stage and held out her arms to Lizzie. Mama, Lizzie asked, and went right into the woman's arms. Oh, you precious child, you have to be ours, the woman said as she hugged Lizzie. If you'd like to make arrangements to take her, Frances began, but the woman didn't let her finish the sentence. We would. Oh, we would. Look at these beautiful eyes. She's so much like our own little girl would have been. She lowered her voice and said, We lost our baby last year. The woman refused to let go of Lizzie for even a moment, even to let her husband hold her. Another woman stepped up behind her. I'm Mrs. Howard Smith. My husband and I also came to get a little girl. The 2-year-old may be spoken for, but what about that pretty child you called Nellie? She's a darling. I tried to get her to come to me. Her brother wouldn't let go of her. His name is George, Frances said. Nellie's older brother is Earl. They're hoping someone will want to adopt the 3 of them together. The woman gasped. 3? It's not likely anyone could afford to take 3 children. They don't want to be separated, Frances said. It's up to you to make the decision, isn't it? Not them, the woman asked. My husband and I raised 5 boys. We'd love to have a little girl. We'd be good to her and school her and take her to church on Sundays, just like you said. Let me have a minute to talk to the children, Frances said, and before she walked over to George, she had to speak to the committee members who sat on chairs on the side of the room. What do you know about Mr. and Mrs. Howard Smith? She asked. The bald man pursed his lips and nodded. Good people. Raised passable boys, none of whom went bad. One son read the law and set up his practice down in St. Louis, and others working on a store in Howard. They want Nellie Babcock, Frances explained. If they take Nellie, they'll separate from her two brothers. They all hope to stay together. One of the committee members rolled her eyes. When children asked for the moon if they thought they could get it. Mrs. Judson smiled sympathetically at Frances. We went through this last year. It's a hard job to find homes for large groups of children. It's always saddened when we have to put some of them in the next train. She glanced at Mrs. Smith, who stood there for Frances, and left her. I've known Rose Smith for years, and she's a good woman. She's always wanted a little girl. Frances sighed and said thank you. I'll take your advice. With an aching heart, she explained to George and Earl, I can't take the chance on finding people who want to adopt 3 children. I was told the Smiths would be very good to Nellie, and they'd give her a happy home. Earl's face drained of color. We'll be able to visit Nellie? Can we see her often? I don't know, Frances said. Tears were streaming down George's cheeks, and Nellie patted George's face, looking puzzled. Why are you crying? Nellie asked. George's defenses broke down completely, and he began to sob. Frances wrapped her arms around all 3 children. She knew how much sorrow they were feeling, and she also knew how this could be Nellie's only chance to find a loving family. I'll give you the Smith's addresses so you can write to Nellie, she told the boys. Giving them time to say goodbye to their little sister and steeling herself with heartbroken tears, Frances reluctantly took Nellie from George and carried her to Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith's smile lit up the room. Oh, darling Nellie, you're going to be mine, she cried. But Nellie, realizing what was happening, stretched out her arms to her brothers and began to wail at the top of her lungs. Frances, forcing back her own tears, handed out papers to a number of eager foster parents. But occasionally there was an eruption of tears on the stage, and she had to go solve the problems. Nobody picked me, Margaret sobbed. She clutched her rabbit tightly. They've just begun meeting the children, Frances told her. She pulled out a handkerchief and wiped Margaret's eyes. Smile, Frances said. You're such a dear girl. When people see that happy smile, someone's bound to want you. Frances paused. At the back of the stage, Eddie was entertaining a group of fascinating listeners, acting out the exploits on the train. So there stood the robber, with the gun pointed straight at me, Eddie said. He raised and pointed an imaginary handgun at a woman, who gave a little jump and squealed. But he wasn't going to get the best of me, not Eddie Marsh, who knew his way around the streets of New York City from the time he learned to walk. Chuckling at Eddie's performance, Frances walked on. Although many of the children were surrounded by smiling and curious adults, Aggie sat miserably alone on the stool at one side of the stage. With an aching heart, Frances saw Aggie glance hopefully at 2 of the couples who came near, but none of them approached her. Frances started toward Aggie, but a middle-aged couple unwittingly stepped in front of her. They stopped next to Aggie and examined her as though she were a bolt of cloth. She's a strapping big girl, the woman said to her husband. Not much to look at if that red hair's a sight, but I'm sure she can handle plenty of hard work. The woman suddenly took Aggie's upper arm in her roughened hand and squeezed the muscle. Her face molded red with anger. Aggie jerked to her feet. Don't touch me, she shouted at the woman. Well, I never, the woman shouted. Hard worker or not, I don't want a rude child like you. As the woman and her husband stomped off the stage, Frances put an arm around Aggie's shoulders. Pay no attention to people like that, she said. I don't want to go with them, Aggie insisted. You don't have to, Frances told her. I don't want to be kitchen help. I want someone to love me. Someone will. Aggie seemed to shrink inside herself. Maybe Mrs. Marklander was right. Maybe no one can love me. Aggie, dear, forget Mrs. Marklander. She was wrong, Frances said. Forget those people who are so rude to you. I wouldn't have let you go with them. In any case, you weren't sent here to be an unpaid worker. You were sent to be part of a loving family. Look for the family who will choose you. If you see people coming to talk to you, smile at them. I know you must have a beautiful smile. Smile just so they choose me? That's like begging. I can't do that. I can't. Then smile because you'd choose them. Can you try? Aggie lifted a woebegone face to Frances. I guess I can try, she said. Frances was needed to help a young couple fill out papers for Philip, so she left Aggie, hoping for the best. Caroline Jane went willingly with a pleasant young man and woman. She tugged at Frances's skirt and whispered, They'll take care of me, and my father won't be able to find me, will he? Frances knelt and put her arms around the little girl. You'll have a new life with people who love you. Try to forget the unhappiness of your old life, will you? Caroline nodded agreement, but tears rolled down her cheeks. Frances kissed her goodbye, tears blurring her own eyes. Were Caroline's fears real? Would her father try to find her? Frances hoped and prayed that the best would come for this frightened child. Margaret bounced up and down and said goodbye to Frances. Someone did want me after all, she exclaimed. She clung to the hand of her new foster mother, smiling as though all her wishes had been answered. Frances said one goodbye after another, each time hoping the right decision had been made, and both the child and the foster parents would be happy. But how can we really know what lies ahead for these children, she asked herself. All we can do is hope for the best. Finally, the room had cleared of the people who had come either to take a child or to gawk. Frances asked Mrs. Judson to go through the papers so that Frances could make sure the information was complete and accurate. 17 of the 30 children have been chosen. Thanks to Emily Jean and Harriet Averill, they're going to the same family. Thanks be that Emily Jean and Harry Averill are going to the same family, Frances said to Mrs. Judson. Mrs. Judson ran down her finger the list that she'd drawn up. Nellie Babcock and Lizzie Schultz. The babies and toddlers always chosen first. Philip Emery, he's just 4, cute as a button. He was bound to be a first choice. Now we've got Frank Fisher, David Howard, Will Scott, Marcus Mello, and Sam Meyer. No surprise, farmers need boys who can do with the heavy chores. Frances felt a stab of concern. How well she remembered Mike's terrible treatment at the hands of Mr. Friedrich. Mrs. Judson, you vouched for the people who chose the boys. You said you knew them. They'll be good to the boys, won't they? Sure they won't come here just to get free farm labor? Mrs. Judson looked solemnly at Frances. Have you ever lived on a farm? Yes, Frances answered. Then you know the hard work that's involved. Rise before dawn, work until after dark. Every member of the family pitches in. She relaxed, patting Frances's hand. The people who chose the boys are all good people. They won't abuse the boys. They'll treat them like their own children. Frances nodded. By the way, Will won't live on a farm, Mrs. Judson said. The couple who picked him, Sarah and Otto Wallace, raised 8 boys, all of them grown or off to school, and they're lonely. Otto is a well-respected doctor in a nearby town. Will may eat plenty of chicken, because sometimes the only way people can pay their doctor bills is with chickens or eggs, but he'll have a happy life. Mrs. Judson went down her list. Caroline Jane Whitaker, Margaret DeCapo, Mary Beth Lansdowne, Nicola Bachetti, Lottie Duncan, Alexander Hannah, Virginia Hooper. She stopped and smiled. That Virginia is a caution. I heard her tell her foster parents that she's really a princess who had switched to another child at birth. Well, knowing the Johnsons and how much they wanted a little girl, they'll undoubtedly treat her like a princess. Frances thanked Mrs. Judson and the committee members who gathered the children who were left. Eddie sidled up to Frances, a worried look on his eyes. I was a hero back on the train, he said. I guess no one was looking for a hero. I heard true people say they wanted a quieter, more well-behaved child, not a lad of the streets like me. Frances smoothed back Eddie's hair from his forehead. Such a tough boy, but with such open, vulnerable eyes. Eddie reminded her so much of Mike when he was young. We have 2 more stops. You'll find a family soon. But Eddie's confidence was ebbing. She could tell. The lads back home would have been proud of me, he said. And rightly so. I'm proud of you, Frances told him. Mrs. Judson stepped up to Frances and waved a list. Here's the remaining children we'll put up for the night. There's all good people who will feed them supper and breakfast. Have them at the station tomorrow morning and plan time to catch the train. Thank you, Frances said. As for you and your boy here, Mrs. Judson added, lowering her voice, Sheriff Malloy and his wife are putting you up at their house. That's very kind, Frances said. Mrs. Judson's eyes widened. Oh, it's not to be kind. That robber who was on the train with you. Seth Connolly, Frances prompted. Yes, Seth Connolly. As I was saying, he'll figure it out. If he hasn't already, the 2 of you probably had something to do with setting the sheriff after him and his brothers. Since there's nothing to say that the Connolly won't come back, the sheriff thinks he'll be a lot safer under his own roof.